Good evening, everyone. I hope you're enjoying yourselves, because I feel fucking fabulous. You know, originally for this, like, not even just a few minutes ago, I was gonna go for more of a route where it's like I take myself a little more seriously. But then I thought, like, I'm looking at myself right now, and it's hard for me to do that when I can literally just see myself right there. So sorry if this ruins the immersion, but I've always kind of figured this idea would work better if I didn't take it seriously. It feels like a mix, sort of. But anyway, it just, if you see me, that means you're gonna have more of like a mixed kind of format. But anyway, now, for many years now, a lot of my friends, online and offline, have recommended me to do one thing, and that is talk about my dreams and nightmares on video. In some kind of video format. Some have recommended animated them, some have recommended just talking about them, and I think it's about time I finally did it. And the reason why they recommend it so much, because there are times I talk about them, and anytime they hear about it, they just go... It's always the best to see people's reaction to that sort of thing. Originally, I was going to fully animate it. That's why this had taken so long to do, but then I figured I've put so much on my plate, you know what? Just get it out there. Just do it this way. You know, I need something where I could talk to the camera casually anyway. I'm keep looking back and forth because I'm seeing myself on the webcam right now. Not that I think I'm a handsome devil by all means. Now, here's the thing about dreams. Dreams are a very strange thing. They're an amalgamation of our own memories that come during our time of sleep. But the thing that eludes people the most is the exact purpose of them. Even scientists don't really understand why we have dreams. Some say it's like a survival instinct, or some kind of coping mechanism perhaps. Some say it's a way for our brain to communicate certain messages to us. Some people have theories that it's us traveling to parallel dimensions temporarily in our sleep. It's like some sort of astral projection. That sounds kind of cool. Is it true? Probably not, but I like to think it would be. What I don't understand is when people say dreams are made up of your memories, but then I've always had dreams of certain things that I've never seen before at all. Perhaps maybe the idea is that it's not necessarily a direct pull memory and implant it. It's similar to how many people who write books or create cartoons, how they take inspiration from all sorts of different things and create something original out of them. Perhaps maybe our dreams are doing the exact same thing, taking different memories and mixing them into something new. So to start off, how about we begin with one of my earliest nightmares I have ever had. One that has stuck with me for many years. This was back in elementary school. This is a point in time when they were teaching us all sorts of stuff through like video-based PSAs, you know, educational stuff. You know, like fire safety, the thing where Gilbert Gottfried played as a fire alarm.
See more smoke! Smoke detector! The more smoke I see, the more noise I make! And I see more smoke coming from that toaster!
I remember one in particular, and I can't find it anywhere. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, I don't know, 10 points to Gryffindor. But whatever. It was like this PSA that told us to get these cards. They're like little IDs, and the purpose of them is that if someone was kidnapping us or dragging our stupid tiny asses into a car, we'd have to throw the card onto the ground and just hope to God someone finds it. And they'd they'd see it on the ground and be like, oh my God, this person's missing. And so they'd have to go ahead and call the police or call the right people, yada yada yada. Now, when I saw that video for the first time of course, their demonstration inside that PSA of the kid being dragged into a car, throwing the card on the ground, my first thought was, what if the adult saw you do that? And it's like, an adult is stronger than a kid, so the adult could reasonably pull the child back, lean down, grab the card, and take both. And that thought scared me as a kid. This is a point in time when I was being introduced to the idea of stranger danger, and there'd be people I've never met in my life who would want to cause me harm. Who'd have thunk? I also thought of other possibilities, like what if someone who's mowing their lawn ran over it with their lawnmower and just destroyed it. I don't know why my little kid mind went to all of this. Oh shit! My mic was on the ground. Do I have to do this again? I don't know. But anyway, that kind of stuff scared me a lot as a kid. The idea that someone that I've never met before would just take me from my family and I never see them again terrified me as a kid. And it's probably why I had this. So in the dream, I remember distinctly I was running through my elementary school. I'm not going to say what elementary school it was, but I will say it was in a square shape. Okay, all buildings are, so let me be a little more specific. The foundation of the school was that it was literally set up like a square. It was like a hallway, left turn, hallway, eventually till you get back. And each hall was designated to a different grade. You go into the entrance, you turn right, that's the first grade hallway, then you turn left, that's the second grade, turn left again, it's third grade, turn left again, and there's a little tiny hall to the right, that's where the fourth graders go. Right? I can't remember what grade I was when this was all going on. But I do remember just running through these halls. Absolutely terrified. Something was chasing me. And there was no one else inside the school. The school was basically abandoned at this point. And I was running for dear life. I turn around, and I swear to God, there is this tall, slender, shadowy figure wrapped in black bandages, emitting smoke from its body, chasing me. It was the strangest thing. I'm not even sure how little kid me managed to conjure that up. It looked like a scrawny skeletal mummy, but with black bandages instead of white, and smoke was pouring out of like the little creases of the bandages. And the weird thing is too, the way it moved. That was the strangest part, the way that this thing would move. It wouldn't move like a regular person. It wasn't chasing me like so. It looked like it was casually walking in slow motion, and yet it was catching up to me. Like, imagine someone walking in slow motion, yet they're kind of still gliding on the ground, making speed. Their movement doesn't make it seem like they're actually moving that fast, but they are. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. This guy had exaggerated, like, slow walking, and he was even catching up to me full sprint. I noticed one other thing he had. He had a gun. And this is a point in time where we're also being taught about gun safety and all that kind of stuff. I remember specifically, there was a memory, this wasn't at my school, this was at a special event in my town, where a policeman told us that if I just randomly shot this, the bullet would probably keep going for a said distance. I don't know nothing about guns. And I still don't know, I didn't know back then either, because when I was a kid, and I had that dream, I looked at the gun, it literally looked like a giant Roger Rabbit-styled gun. Like, it looked like a revolver that was twice the size of a revolver. Like, it was comically sized. But for some reason, that scared me as a kid, too. The fact he had this unrealistically sized gun and he was following me with it. I was running and I tried to turn down to the first hall where the entrance was so I could go to the office and hopefully there'd be adults that helped me, and then he did it. He shot me. Now, little kid me didn't know how to process any of this. I had never been shot before. I've never seen anyone get shot. I've only seen it in movies and whatnot, or like probably some videos that somehow end up on the internet. And don't judge me, you watch them too. Look. Car crashes aren't good, but you can't help but to just look and marvel at the destruction. You hope everyone's okay and no one died. But like seeing that car just flip 100 times in the air, slam down as a whole big fireball of destruction, you can't help but to marvel and look at it. You do it too, don't judge me. But anyway, I remember just feeling pressure inside the dream, just not pain, tightness. And I look into my shirt, and what I see is, this is gonna be the weirdest description ever, as if someone, you know how you have like Play-Doh and you put like a shape into it and you push in? Imagine that, but it went really deep in, and it just sort of stretched my skin to fit that shape. It was literally like someone got a block of a US state. I say that because it's like a block and it has like little tiny edges coming out of it. Pushes it into me, and my body actually stretches to go with it, and the most blood is like little stretches that come in the actual crease. That's how I imagined a bullet wound. Obviously, that's not how they work. So, I finally make it. I stumble into the office, and there people are. The principal, everyone's there. I stumble in, they all look at me. And I try to tell them what's going on. I'm pointing down the hall, I'm telling them what's happening, and what do? They get the biggest grins on their faces, and they start laughing. Not like chuckling, full-on, wholehearted laughing. All of them are laughing with these biggest, exaggerated grins I have ever seen. I was terrified at this point. I turn around. There it was, standing there, looking down at me as it points the revolver up to me. And then, almost as if it was a perfectly cut moment, as soon as it pulled trigger, the dream ended right then and there. Dear Lord. My dreams have a weird habit of ending at very specific points. Couldn't tell you why. Now, why did I have that dream? Now, I truly do believe it was because of all the PSAs. Like, they were trying to teach kids, you know, to be careful in, like, a situation where the house is on fire. Maybe that's why smoke was coming from him. Stranger danger, that's why he had that appearance. And gun safety, that's why he had a gun. What? Discord, shut up! Goddamn! I'm trying to make entertainment. Goddamn! Now, as for that thing's appearance, after a lot of thought, it may be possible. I'm not sure if, like, that I had even seen it yet. But you know the episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog with King Ramsay, you know. Return, slab, or suffer my curse. I truly do believe that maybe that guy's mannerisms were somehow based on King Ramsay. So it's possible that maybe this thing was an amalgamation of fear driven by these PSAs that I saw and King Ramsay from Courage the Cowardly Dog. It makes sense. Now, why he was wrapped up in black bandages and why he was such a cool design monster. Like, here's the thing. That is a cool... fuck. Now, here's the thing. That is a cool design monster right there. I even remade him, and I didn't even make that many differences to him. Minus the comically sized gun, that is a well-designed monster. Was I just destined for this? Was I destined to make horror content? Was I a horror director in a past life? Or maybe a doctor, considering, like, I'd probably have to be exposed to a lot of organs and whatnot. Maybe that's why blood doesn't bother me. But all other body fluids do. I don't know, man. I don't know. That was one of my earliest nightmares that I can think of. And it's still stuck in my head, and I finally was able to talk about it. And it feels good to be able to finally do this, not only because I've always wanted to do this, but also because so many people have been asking me to. I'm terrible at outros. I can be like a scummy YouTuber that acts like he cares about your opinion. Alright everyone, go ahead and give this video 25,000 likes. Go ahead and give it like 1 million comments. Have you ever eaten a mushroom before on a pizza? Go ahead and put a comment. It's stupid shit. I hope you have a beautiful day, a wonderful day. With that being said... Shit, I forgot my outro. Holy fuck, I don't do this very often anymore. Oh my god. Oh yeah, your connection will be strange. Promise I won't forget next time. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Nightmare Journal. Now, this is just off of recording the first episode. I feel great being able to record videos again. For some reason, I feel energized. Don't drink like I did back in 2021 and 22. It'll destroy your mental health and motivation. Now, this is the dream that inspired everything. This is the dream that whenever I tell people about my dreams, they're the ones that always say, dude, you gotta make a video out of that. Or, dude, you gotta make a dream. Yeah, you gotta do something about your dreams and videos, dude. That's fucking wicked, bro. This is the dream that started it all. The year was 2017, and I couldn't tell you what exactly had caused this dream to come to be. But the nightmare was so terrifying that it's one of the few times in my entire life that I actually woke up from the nightmare, like not with a full thing of sleep. Like, the nightmare just jolted me up. Now, I didn't do the stereotypical cartoon scream. I've done that once in my life, but it still jolted me awake because it terrified me that much. And this is it. This has got to be the most abstract dream. I could not tell you anything any memory, anything that was going on in my life then, any memory that would somehow mix mash to make all of this. I don't know. I can't think of anything. This is why when people say dreams are made up of your memories, I find it hard to believe because of cases like this. Now, the dream starts in this big white void. There's nothing for miles on end. You can't even see distance. And I'm standing on top of, like, you know, football bleachers, you know, the stuff they have at school stadiums or footballs. I'm standing on top of sort of like something that's like 10 feet tall. They set up like bleachers, but there's blue tarp all over them. I just know that I'm on top of bleachers because of their formation. I look to my side, and standing next to me is a whole line of other me's. Other versions of me, all standing on this line. I look to my other side. More me's. We're all standing there. Like, we don't know what's happening. We're looking around. We're not sure what's going on. All of the me's are, like, dumbfounded. And all of a sudden, we start hearing carnival music. It started coming from the distance, and one of us points over. And I swear to God, this thing came out of nowhere. A whole stampede of these things. These were elephants. However, their bodies were carved out, their torsos were gone and replaced by carousels, and their skin was wrapped around the merry-go-round. So they had these hollow faces, no teeth, no eyes, no nothing, but at the very end of their trunk, it was like these grabby gold arm thing, like a claw. So these essentially Silent Hill monsters just came stampeding through in an army, ran straight through the bleachers as it collapsed and we all fell. As soon as we were getting up, getting our wits about themselves, we hear screaming. We turn around and they got some of us. And what they were doing was literally tearing us apart limb by limb. You ever have a dream where you literally see multiple versions or clones of yourself being ripped apart in gory messes? Like, blood was everywhere, intestines were on the ground, other versions of me were literally being torn apart by these things. If you don't think that's weird, put yourself inside those shoes. Instead of just a bunch of me's, imagine them as a bunch of yous. So of course, as a response, we all get up and run, and of course, the stampede is after us. We are booking it, but you know, we're in a white void, where are we gonna go? Then we see it, a door. This door just came out of nowhere. We decided to take it as the opportunity to see a big concrete wall with a door. So we open it, and we all start running in. And we're all trying to help each other get inside. We're leaving the door open, but we left it open for a little too long because one guy tried to get in, but the elephant things grabbed its leg. I remember this version of me was grabbing onto the wall and gets pulled in, so we had no choice but to slam it shut. Whole place goes dark. There's only a light at the entrance, and we can see it's just this big concrete factory with rusted metal machinery. It's big, it's empty, it's dark, but we had no choice. We had to keep running because these things were coming through. They were breaking the concrete wall. So all of us, we run and we split up like the fucking Scooby-Doo gang, because that's a great idea. So we all start running and panicking, and I'm all by myself now. I'm alone, pitch darkness, can't see anything out there. This, for some reason, there's like a tiny bit of light that's, it seems like I can see things that are like right next to me, even though there's no light source. I see like a rusted metal oil can, like the big kind of ones, the big tanks, and a concrete wall to my left. That's it though. And I think I'm safe. And then I turn around. I see a lights coming from the distance. I hear the music. And I swear to God, the scariest shit just happens. It starts off slow. The stomping comes like dun, 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 dun. Oh my God! Scary ass shit. It's like it accelerates when it gets closer to me. And of course, the moment it gets near me and I can see its hollow face, that's when I jolt awake. And I decide, I don't care how old I am, I'm sleeping with the light on after that one. You can make fun of me, be like, oh, baby, need a nightlight. Try having a nightmare like that and you're in a pitch dark room when you wake up. Fuck that noise. You can kill me a little baby man all you want. I slept with the light on for the rest of that night. I don't care. I won't admit it, and it was terrifying. There's only one thing that I feel as if could have caused some inspiration for the dream. I played this game called Restrain. It's a 2D pixelated short horror game, and for some reason there are elephants inside of it. There are horror elephants inside of it, but I don't think they had the carousels. I think they were just literally creepy elephants. Maybe they had hollowed out faces, I think. They didn't have the carousels, they didn't have the merry-go-rounds. There's no white void, I don't think anyway, inside that game. And there's no situation that's similar to what I had been through. Right? That's the only thing that I feel as if there could be some kind of connection. And even then, I feel like that might be a stretch, because that is the only one that I made a connection to. I can't even remember if I played that game before or after I had the dream. So that's another thing, too. I can't tell you why I had this one. This one was just absolutely insane. Like, oh my God. The most surreal dream I've ever had. Dear Lord. But I like it. I do like the fact that I had that nightmare because it led to this. It led to one of my favorite art pieces I had ever created. Is one of the most detailed, but also still appealing art pieces I had ever made. And it's the whole reason this series even exists. It's the dream that I always describe, and people always reply, you gotta do something with that. And here's the thing, I want to do more with the carousel merry-go-round elephants. Because they're such a cool concept. I like them. They may... Look, I don't hold it against them for murdering and slaughtering a bunch of versions of me. It wasn't me, it was other me's. It's fine. Look, man, bro, I probably would have done the same thing, honestly, bro. That's it. That's the dream that started this entire series. Dear Lord, honestly. But with that being said, I hope you had a beautiful day. I hope your day gets even better. And your connection will be strange. Welcome back again to the Nightmare Journal. And boy, do I have a treat for you. Depending on whether or not you enjoy it. Which, you will enjoy it. Now, this is a nightmare I've had shortly after the Carousel Elephant one. Like a few days afterwards. For some reason, in that one year, 2017... I was having a bunch of nightmares that would just wake me up in the middle of my sleep. Couldn't tell you why, couldn't tell you how. Couldn't tell you what was happening. Great googly moogly. But this one was a bit different. So sometimes, you know how dreams would just change out of nowhere? How they just go from one thing to the other with like no rhyme or reason, they just like that. This is kind of what happened, except it's like it had a transition to it. So inside this dream, I remember I was playing a Dark Souls styled game. I think it was more like Bloodborne actually, because I actually have Bloodborne. I do have Bloodborne. And I remember I'm sitting there on the ground, and I'm going ahead and watching the TV as I'm playing Bloodborne, or this Bloodborne styled game. I'm not sure if it exactly was Bloodborne or just based on it, because it featured a location I had never seen. The location itself seemed like a crumbled utopia underground. It was like this big open cavern of just this civilization that was once on a big flat platform that collapsed in on itself into the water below, and only some of it still stands. Absolutely a magical looking place. It didn't look beautiful. How do I put this? It was the epitome of dark beauty. That's how I would describe that place. It was decrepit, it fell apart. It was a utopia that's no longer a utopia, but a part of it still looked magical because of the fact that it was inside a big cavern, the fact that it was so big and expansive, the glistening water down below. It just felt otherworldly. And then all of a sudden, while playing this game, I'm this character that has a huge, giant sword. It was like a blue gold sword with, anytime a slash came around, water would emit from it. There were these big, bulbous, armored enemies. They looked like their armor were bubbles, almost. And they were just fumbling around. They didn't look like they were human anymore. They looked like they could have been human at some point. And I remember slashing through those enemies. For some reason, my point of view went from watching the game as I played it to now being the protagonist. It's like my eyes just swapped perspective. Now I'm literally in the game, but I don't register it as me being in the game. I register it as now being in this world. Like somehow it was like a portal. So I'm walking around trying to figure out what to do. I have no experience in combat, so I'm just trying to use this big giant sword to the best of my abilities, right? But, of course, like I said, this utopia had collapsed in on itself, so the farther back you are inside the cavern area, you're closer to ground. It seems like the cave kind of spreads out, and the farther you spread out, the more the water takes in. The farther out you go to when it spreads out, that's when the utopia starts becoming a bit more unstable, because that's where it collapsed. The part where it collapses is getting closer and closer to the walls. And I get to that point and I see, hey look, there's a point where I can just turn around, there's probably more to it, there's like a little cliff, if I can make it, and whoop, there I go, I slip, I fall. And I'm under the water. Despite how close it looked like it was to the ground, there was nothing. It was just dark blue everywhere. I'm looking around, there's nothing. There's nothing when you look down, there's nothing when you look up, there's nothing when you look side to side. Just pretty much a big blue void underwater, and I see something in the distance. It looks like a humanoid-like figure, but with no legs. Have you ever heard of the Ningen? The Ningen is sort of a cryptid that is sort of like this humanoid-like figure. They're kind of like a mermaid, I guess, but they're meant to be huge. They're much bigger. They're meant to be humanoid in appearance. They have these giant webbed hands. They got big arms, they got a torso, and they get a head that looks like it kind of has a humanoid face on it, but they don't have any legs, and they don't have the rest of the torso. They're sort of this cryptid and urban legend that you could easily just look up. I think they're a neat concept, I like them, but essentially, imagine this thing in the distance. And it has, like, dreadlocks. Dreadlocks that look like they're from the movie Tarzan. You know what I'm talking about? Tarzan has, like, those dreadlocks that don't really look like they're braided. They just look like big, long, bits of hair. Imagine that. So I'm looking at this thing and thinking, like, well, that's fine, it's not that big. Then it clicks in me. It's not that it's small, it's just really far away. And as soon as I realize this thing gets lightning speed and whoosh, comes right to me, grabs me with its giant hand, and looks like it's about to eat me. It has no teeth. It just opens its gob, its triangular looking mouth. There's no teeth, no tongue, no nothing. And so I get this big ass sword that I have and I try in vain to stab its mouth. But of course it's not affecting it. It's just dragging me in. More and more. And by the time I get to its mouth, I'm awake again. The same thing happened with the merry-go-round dream where I just jolt myself awake. And once again, yes, I did sleep with the lights on. Judge me, I don't care. You try having these weird-ass fucking surreal nightmares. I'm sure a lot of you probably actually have experience in that, but shut up. I don't know what was with me and having these kind of nightmares that would jolt me awake. Couldn't tell you. I'll give you a little bonus nightmare because it does relate to the topic. So I did have another dream, and the reason I'm bringing this one up is because it's incredibly short, and it does relate to the fact of, like, jolting me awake. I've mentioned in the episode before that there was a point where I jolt myself awake screaming, but that wasn't from a scary nightmare. I never got to explain it, and since this one is really short, I figured I might as well. So I don't remember all the details in this dream. In this dream, I was living in one house and my mom was living in another house across the street. We've never been in these houses before, but we're on the balconies of these houses. They're literally across from each other on the street. We're screaming and yelling at one another. For some reason, we're having a heated argument about something. And my mom would not listen to me in this dream. So we were screaming at one another. And at one point, I just yelled this out. I just yelled something out, and I swear to God, I yelled, "Shut the fuck up." But here's the weird thing. When I yelled that, I woke up at the exact moment I started yelling that. So I literally got up from bed yelling that. So it was literally just like this. Shut the fuck up! And there goes my poor dog running out of my room, and I'm thinking I'm a crazy person right now. So here's the thing. I did call my mom, and I was just like, is that normal? Screaming "shut the fuck up" when I wake up from a dream. And she's like, yeah, it's normal. I felt like a crazy person. It never happened before. I felt insane. But anyway, my roommates are back, so let's go ahead and end the video right here. We were going to anyway. So that's everything for this episode. Hope y'all have a beautiful day, and I hope it gets even better. Your connection will be strange. Welcome back to the Nightmare Journal. Now, this dream I'm about to go over is a very difficult one to talk about, because for one, of the age that I had this dream, I was 16, I lacked common sense, and I was just getting into horror, but let's just say I'm an edgy bastard, but even I cringe when I think of my teenage self, which I think that's everybody. Everyone looks back at high school and their teen years and just think, oh my god, I did that. But at the same time, I was basically too edgy for me back then. And that's a term I don't even like to use, honestly. But that's a simple way to put it. I was just too edgy for me, even for edgy adult Zach to enjoy. A bit of context for this dream. I had just moved to Washington State from my home state of Pennsylvania. And for those who don't know, that's a big gap. That's 3,000 miles apart, or at least close to that. It's a bit of a distance. So, of course, I started to get homesick at one point, and my mental health was not the best at this point. I mean, one has it ever been, but there are points in my life where it just starts to escalate a bit more, and it's a little harder to manage in comparison to other times in my life. It's always been hard to manage, but I'm sure people with mental health issues could probably relate. You know, there are certain points in your life where your mental health will just get worse, harder to manage, and other points where it's bad, but at least you can control it. Mental health is not something that can just go away. It's something you gotta live with. But hey, I do believe this was still a very important time in my life because this was the point in time I started to get into horror. This is the point in time I discovered creepypasta, a Slenderman, SCP, and I was obsessed. This was my horror fan origin, essentially. It's this kind of material that got me into horror and whatnot. I love the horror genre. Even though I don't really play a lot of horror games that are really meant to be scary, I'm more into action games and whatnot, which is why I love stuff like Dead Space and Bioshock, because they're not action games. They're horror games with some action elements here and there. But needless to say, I do believe me discovering all this stuff also led to the dream that I would have. It came all at a very vulnerable point for my mental health, and the stuff that I was consuming probably wasn't doing me any favors. Not that I blame it or think that it's bad for any of that. Of course, I do feel as if that it built me as a character, but it was just one of those kind of unfortunate timing situations. You know what I mean? This dream would always be the same. I would start in this big, long stone hallway with metal rusted pipes. No doors, no windows, no nothing. Just a straight corridor. No turns, and nothing would change. You would not be able to see the end of this hallway. And it was almost like I was my own personal light source, because anytime I went forward, my field of view would always stay the same. Sometimes I would see like rust on the ground, or perhaps maybe like some red marks on the ground, like maybe blood stains. It was not that interesting though, right? And then we get to this part. I would hear a voice start talking to me. I would look around until I would see this face. This huge, bloody, grimy smile with huge white eyes and tiny pupils just staring me down. Now, many of you may recognize this face, as most people know it as this face. The face that you mainly see with like YouTube horror related stuff. Especially around that point in time, around like the early 2010s of indie horror, this face was everywhere for some reason. Every horror creator at that point in time used it at least once. Don't lie, you did too. Did I? I can't remember actually. I do have a thumbnail for a Fall Guys joke video I was going to make, but that never came to be. But every horror YouTuber would essentially use this face at one point. Now, where did this face come from? Many people often associate it with SCP-087. It's an SCP about these flight of stairs that would just keep going down, and eventually there is this face that would show up, but that's not the face. For some reason, this is just a face that people associated with it for a while, when really it's more this face. This more like silhouette of a guy's face, this shadowy black figure. So where did this come from? Well, some people believe that the face actually came from Smile Dog, another creepypasta. Especially that edited version of, not the original Smile Dog where it just looks like the husky with human teeth. The more edited version where it's more demon-like, where it's much brighter, a lot more red. People say that the smile came from that image. Now, I don't know if that's true, and to be honest, I don't truly know the origin of that face. Maybe it is Smile Dog, maybe it's just that people use that face for Smile Dog, and that's where most people associate it with. I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but I truly do believe that face, that this face is what inspired this face. Now, what would this guy do? He wouldn't try to attack me, physically harm me in any way. He would always belittle me though, make me feel like garbage for who I am. He would take all of my mistakes, all of my regrets, all of my fears, and essentially bully the shit out of me because of it, making me feel like a horrible person for just tiny little things that really don't matter. Tiny little things like, you know, when a waitress gives you your food and she says, "Oh, I hope you enjoy your meal," and you say, "You too." Tiny little stuff like that, but he would make it seem like it was so much of a worse thing that, oh, you could have had a great opportunity if you didn't do that. He would just bully the shit out of me and make me feel like utter garbage. And this was a reoccurring dream. This would come many days when I first arrived at Washington. It was almost as if I was so homesick that something was tormenting me for leaving. It got so bad that I needed to have some kind of outlet. And that outlet was taking this guy and bringing him into the real world. I took that red face that you see on the internet, and I would use him for certain projects, or perhaps maybe just performing little pranks with my friends and family, but the problem is I went too far with these pranks. I got people to think that I was a danger to myself. I got people to think that there were other things wrong. I went absolutely way too far, and it was mainly just because I was an edgy teenager who lacked common sense and didn't know any better. If I was still having this dream, he would absolutely torment me for that, because I do regret it. I went way too far with this outlet. I do believe that using him as an outlet was a good idea, just poor execution, because I got a lot of my friends and family worried about me. And there are many people in my life that absolutely hate this face because of me not having any common sense. I even gave this guy a name, and the name I thought of when I was still living in Pennsylvania. The name was Crunchus Demania. I originally called him Cruentus because I didn't know how to pronounce it, but it's actually Crunchus. Now, for those who want to know the name, Crunchus is Latin for bloodthirsting, while Demania is just kind of demon, but with a few letters added at the back to make it sound more mystical. So, his name was literally Bloodthirsting Demon. Now, what's interesting is that even though this guy never appeared in any videos from that point in time, I still thought of the name, so I consider him what I like to call a Jefferson character. Now, a Jefferson character is a character that either debuted or I thought of when I was still living in my small town of Jefferson, where everything literally started for me. My YouTube career, my very first online content, is where it all started. So it's a very personal point in time for me, from 2008 to 2012. Other characters like Nat the Banana Ghost or Tug the Penguin came from this point in time, and believe it or not, Alice Darkson technically came from this point in time. Even though she never appeared in any videos, I was starting getting like the earliest ideas of Alice from that point in time. So I technically consider Alice a Jefferson character in that regard. So this guy's technically been a part of my life for over a decade at this point. And now you're probably wondering, if you went too far and got your friends and family worried about you, why talk about him today? Why bring him back? Why use him for other things? Well, because I think it's been long enough that I think it's time that I could possibly redeem him. That I think I could turn it around. That I legitimately believe that I could do good things with this character instead of bad things. Scare people, you know, like horror, it is still the horror genre, but not in a way that would get people legitimately worried. I think it's time for me to redeem this guy, and I technically have been in other ways. This face has existed for a while. Well, this one was made specifically for Nightmare Journal. I have created other variations of it for other videos and projects. I think it's just time to redeem him. It's a good time to take a bad thing and turn it around into a good thing. And to all my friends and family that I got worried about me and I absolutely went way too far trying to scare, I apologize. I do regret that very heavily. It is one of my biggest regrets. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you don't think I'm a psychopath because of something that I did when I was 16, which is like a decade ago, but you know what? I can't control you. So if you think I'm insane, I'm insane. Alright? So I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope it gets even more beautiful, and your connection will be strange.